Volunteering in Ukraine is networking.
I feel like I am a part of the community here. I feel like I'm a part of society in Ukraine.
Hello, Ukrainian railways.
Yes, I'm the best railways in the world, in my opinion.
I see it as a slogan. If Adam can do it, so can I.
Certainly, I was anxious.
And you decide to go to frontline cities, which are not that safe.
Хто, якщо не я? Who, if not me?
Ukrainian.
I think that Kyiv really shines because of the people who shine in spite of everything.
Hi guys, here is the podcast I Ukraine. My name is Julia, and I am happy to show you my guest, Adam. Nice to meet you here. Adam is a person who is doing a lot of different things in Ukraine, originally being not from Ukraine. First of all, it is a humanitarian volunteer. Secondly, he is representative of different charities organizations, a language lover who knows 10 languages, and one of them is Ukrainian language, which for me is a great pleasure to hear each time we talk with Adam. So, Adam, welcome here.
Thank you very much for inviting me here, Julia.
Thank you. We will talk today about Ukraine during full-scale war. We'll talk today about why you came here. So my first question will be, what brought you here, Adam?
All right, so I can give a very long answer to here. I think if I were to answer this in one word, it would be from my friends. Basically, I grew up in the United States, in Florida. And when I was 15, I went abroad for the first time in my life to Italy. And it was there that I realized to myself, not the entire world speaks English. I ought to speak another language.
Yeah.
And I chose German, which for me at the time was very exotic. I chose it partially because my father studied it in university alongside his degree. And when I came to a language school, I met Europeans of my age, and I thought, this is the place that I want to live. I moved to Austria, to Salzburg, to finish my high school, where I met many people from former Soviet states, including many friends from Ukraine. And that was the start of the next 10 years of my life, as I've now been living in different places, mostly in Germany, for the last 10 years.
Okay. It seems like a long journey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if we may identify, like, how did you come to Ukraine?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
I was, for a long time, I wanted to become a diplomat.
Mm-hmm.
I was very interested in representing my country abroad and building bridges between people and cultures. But I eventually realized probably it would be better to go in the humanitarian direction, to join NGOs and help out. And I finished my master's. It was a month after the full-scale invasion began. I finished my degree in March 2022. So I had quite a few friends here in Ukraine, definitely over 50 acquaintances who I was now contacting, asking how they're doing. Is there anything my friends and I can do to help out? And one friend of mine from high school, Dima, from Odessa, he joined the armed forces. And after that first year, I had the time and ability to move to Ukraine. So I moved in February 2023, originally to Lviv, and then to Odessa, where I was living with him and joined an organization that his friend was a part of.
Okay. Sounds like a long journey again. But how, if you could specify how your first day in Ukraine looked like? What did you feel?
Well, there's two ways to answer that because my first time in Ukraine was in 2021.
Okay. Which was before full-scale war.
Right. So for a while, I was really curious about Ukraine because of my friends. So I went to Kyiv for a week and I really fell in love with the city. I remember that when I landed into Giuliani Airport, that I saw there were these stands for people to show their passports,
Mm-hmm.
saying international volunteers and громадяни України, citizens of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And back then we were still wearing masks. And I remember I was so glad I had this mask because I had this huge smile on my face from just seeing this sign in Cyrillic to welcome people to Ukraine. Had a lovely week where I was amazed by the architecture and the people and the landscapes in Kyiv, to the extent that I came back to Odessa for another week.
Such a pleasure for me to hear that you loved Kyiv, and we are shooting our podcast in Kyiv right now, right?
Yeah.
Great.
So I'd like to answer the other way that I could answer the question, what did my first day look like coming to Ukraine after the full-scale invasion?
Yes.
And I was working in Poland from during the majority of 2022. And eventually I got in contact with there is a partner of my company. One employee there was from Lviv, and she told me that she knew somebody who was collecting funds for the armed forces in Lviv. So I got in contact with her. I had a small interview in Surzhyk, in the mix between Ukrainian and Russian, because
Yes.
I'd been learning Russian for 8 years at the time and decided I needed to switch to Ukrainian. So the head of this organization, her name is Svetlana Nahorna Hordichuk, and the organization is called Lemberg Volunteers. She invited me to come to Lviv for a few months and help out with their social media and marketing. So
Okay. May I interrupt you? So your first day in Ukraine during full-scale war, even today, like why I'm asking, the context why I'm asking about it. Today, when I was going here by a taxi, there was a siren, an alarm, yes, because of possible missile attack. Thanks God, it's over and everything's fine. I was even shooting a video for my Instagram that here we are, here is a siren, but we are still going to shoot a podcast, right? Me as Ukrainian person, originally from Ukraine, I still get anxious a bit when I hear siren, when I hear alarm. And it's here in Kyiv, which is relatively safe. We call in Ukraine it's relatively safe, right? But how did you, as a foreigner, who has a lot of acquaintances here, as I can hear lots of friends, which is important. How did you feel the first day when you arrived to Ukraine, and maybe the first day when you heard the siren or something like that?
So I remember, as many people do, I took the train from Przemysl in Poland to Lviv. And for people who have taken that train, they will know that there is a 2-hour maintenance stop where you're just sitting there on the opposite side of the border in Ukraine. And I remember looking out into this very snowscaped village and looking at the sky and realizing that if I see anything flying in the sky right now that's not a bird, then that will be something bad, I can say. And the gray cushions in the Ukrainian train made a very big impression on me at that time, although I really love Ukrainian railways now. That first time
Hello,
was
Ukrainian railways.
Yes, I'm the best railways in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt, okay, here we go, as if I'm diving into a pool, diving into the water. And I arrived at the Lviv train station and the electricity was turned off, so the darkest platforms that I had been to. But I get out from into the main hallway there and stop into a taxi to get into my main place. And I think to myself, man, I'm back in Ukraine. Thank God I'm back after all this time. The taxi driver says, welcome to the cultural capital. And yeah.
It was Lviv.
It was Lviv.
Okay. What else did you do on your first day?
Well, that was the evening. So afterwards, I definitely went out and walked about the old town.
And how did you feel? Did it change a lot since you were here in 2021? Or and when you heard the first siren?
Yes.
What did you feel?
Especially at that point that there was a lot of limits with the electricity, so lots of central areas were much darker than they would otherwise be at 8
because
p.m.
Of blackouts.
Right. I could hear the sounds of the generators, And all of this was quite different for me, but nonetheless, I thought
Something new?
it was something new. But the more powerful feeling was that I'm back in Ukraine. I'm finally back here in this place that I really missed. Um, I will tell you honestly about the air raid alert that the first time I heard it, I went to the window to open it up to hear what it sounded like, which,
Curiosity.
I
It
don't
is called
recommend.
curiosity. Not
Yeah, yeah,
recommended. Not recommended.
definitely not. Even in Lviv, as I even know people who have been, I know somebody who was in a apartment uh, that was right next to a street that was hit by a missile attack, and he just, like he went into the corridor actually to look for a mattress to lie down on in case there were to be an attack. And while he was looking for the mattress in the corridor, the missile hit, breaking all of the glass and the windows and the bed
Mhm.
and everything. So thank God he
Yeah.
managed without any problems. So even in Lviv, even in a place very, very far, which is also hits much rarely,
Mhm.
much more rarely, there are still attacks that can happen.
That's true. And you? Okay, so we have talked about your first day in Ukraine. And, I mean, during full-scale war. And later, you decide, because you mentioned to me lately that you've been to more than 80 cities in Ukraine, which is much more than I've been to be honest, and made me think, oh my God, this person in 2 years you've been to Ukraine.
Yes, 2 years.
This person in 2 years have been to more cities than me, originally from Ukraine. And you decide to go to frontline cities, which are not that safe and which are not that relatively safe as Lviv and Kiev.
Right.
Tell me about your motivation, please.
Right. So, how that ultimately happened was that I joined the organization Corridor UA, which was my friend Dima's friend's organization, a Czech organization from Czech people who came to Ukraine in the first months after the invasion started. So I joined them and became a partnerships coordinator, managing different partnerships throughout the country, creating and supporting current ones. And naturally, that also involved delivering humanitarian aid.
Mhm.
So I was in quite a few different villages in Mykolaiv and Kherson oblasts. Went to Kherson quite a few times. Although, because of my work,
Were you
Mhm.
not afraid to go there?
certainly I was anxious, but I remember at that time, especially my feeling that I need to be here, I need to be doing something, that was much stronger than my feeling of fear.
Wow. Because I'm still afraid to go to frontline,
Mhm.
even as a volunteer. And that's why people who do it, for me, are heroes, And especially when you don't have to go there. Like nobody was pushing you. Adam,
Mhm.
go, yeah.
I
Except
remember.
for your inner motivation, maybe, right?
I remember when I was still in Poland in 2022, it was very hard for me to accept that I wasn't here, especially as the situation with my job became worse. I was in a very toxic environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing these videos about the different volunteer work, and seeing one, Хто, якщо не я? Who, if not me?
Ukrainian.
Yeah. And that slogan really it really spoke to me, that here I am, I was able to use my language skills, especially my Russian at the time when I lived in Poland, to help Ukrainians who had left the country in the first few months
I
to
was doing the
find.
same,
Yeah.
I did the same in 2022 as a
Mhm.
volunteer in Poland. So
Yeah,
high
in
five.
Krakow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
And
in.
you did it in
I was in Warsaw.
Warsaw. So we were
Hmm.
quite close.
Yeah, so I was able to use my skills to help people to to get free tickets to the West, including to the Americas, to find places to stay, to apply for visas. And I have quite a lot of stories from that time. I think in all of this time that I've been helping Ukraine, that was possibly the most important work that I've done, but also the hardest. Um, and I think after that, and understanding that I have these skills that not everybody has, and that I felt like I could quite quickly learn Ukrainian, which happened. I learned it in 2 months, I would say.
Bravo.
Thank you. That I felt I need to be here. Who, if not me, a person who has been to Ukraine before, who knows the language, who has many, many friends and acquaintances. So, yeah.
How did your parents react to it?
So, at first they were quite anxious about it, of course. Once I started showing them different organizations that accept volunteers and telling them about the organization in Lviv and Odessa, they became calmer. Eventually, my dad said, he said that it's his fault that I'm here because my parents are from the medical sphere.
Okay.
My dad is a neurologist,
Wow.
and I'm really grateful for them for the way they raised me. That they really highlighted how, yes, of course, it's important to find a career that pays very well. Money is very important. But even more important for us was to find work that matters, work where you felt that we are helping people. And for me, that was always something I wanted to work towards. My dad is a huge inspiration to me. My mom as well. So eventually I realized I have a good skill with languages. I should help out. So my dad ultimately said, yeah, it's our fault. And I'm very happy to say they're very proud of me.
It's our fault we brought you up
Yeah.
this way.
My sister reacted more negatively. When I told her, she said, Adam, are you insane? How can you do that? You're going to get yourself killed and everything.
I guess that majority of people might tell it because you go to cities in frontline. And yeah, it's logical. But thanks to your parents for such background.
I agree. I think a lot of people who haven't been to Ukraine think that as soon as you cross the border, then it'll be active warfare, a lot of danger, and it's much more of a fluid scenario. Also, I don't always tell my family where I'm going or how close I am.
MTA.
So some things, I tell them, but there are some things that I prefer to keep to myself.
I'm thinking about your background. I'm thinking about your parents. And I understand that majority of your friends back home think that you are doing crazy things, right? But the idea of my podcast, what you mentioned right now, is you mentioned that not everywhere is there are places which are relatively safe, but people don't see it. People don't see how we sit right now in a great co-working space in the center of Kyiv. People don't see the events, networking events where we met a few weeks ago, right? Adam was speaking Ukrainian and with really slight accent. Like it's very hard to differentiate, but still. And the way you were talking about Ukraine was very inspirational and encouraging. And I asked your Instagram, and then I invited you. And you said, oh, you were thinking maybe I'm interested in, I don't know, whatever professional background. But then I said that volunteering is the biggest job. Like volunteering in Ukraine is one of the biggest movements. Volunteering in Ukraine is networking. I hope you agree.
100%.
Volunteering in Ukraine is meeting friends. Volunteering in Ukraine is doing something which really matters. And getting back to the topic, not everywhere in Ukraine is unsafe, and life still goes on.
I feel like, especially in regards to Kyiv, I try to be a little bit... I tried to be cautious about it. I remember I was at one conference where there was a speaker who said, you can come to Kyiv. Kyiv is normal, just like before. And that kind of bothered me when I heard that, because Kyiv is definitely not how it was before the war. There's lots of differences and lots of changes, and there is still this big safety and security risk. However, Kyiv's safety is because of how good the air defense is, how well trained the soldiers are. So it's very much them to thank. And so I think that Kyiv really shines because of the people who shine in spite of everything. This event where we met, that was also a charity event. There was a lottery, as you remember,
Yeah,
for
I
people to
remember.
win things depending on how much donations they gave. As you mentioned, the volunteering, that there is this huge community of people, and in my opinion, there's too much. Well, no,
Too
it
much,
cannot be
too
too
much.
volunteering. For
Never
oneself,
enough.
if let's put it like this: if one person wants to see all of the volunteering in Kiev, they would need a lot of time, and
Come to Kyiv.
it's almost overwhelming because of that. And that's a really good thing, and something that really inspires me about Kiev and Ukrainians in general.
Great. Being a volunteer is a hard job. Being a volunteer in different charity organizations, and it's not easy. Going to frontline with humanitarian aid is not easy.
Hmm.
I listened to your diaries. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate hearing your stories. It was like 25 minutes diary, something like that, which made me cry because of the way you speak about different cities, different situations, different people, different emotions, and different experiences. And I didn't even know that that you've seen so much and that you've experienced that much, because we've seen each other 2 times before. Not that much, right? But it helped me to understand and to realize a bit of it. You mentioned there a lot of stories. And I had questions like, there was one of the cases about Nova Kakhovka. Let's maybe mention that, correct me if I'm wrong, like Nova Kakhovka is a dam which was damaged in June 2023 by Russians. The territory, the area, you mentioned it in your diary, it's almost like 8-10 times like Manhattan. It's a huge territory. It's a huge land. And it's a huge disaster. Why did you end up there?
Hmm. Yeah. Before answering, I want to add
While everybody was leaving, you ended up there.
In fact, I have a friend whose father is in Kakhovka, so the other city which is on the occupied territory, and it's been very hard for him to be in touch, unfortunately. But yes, Kakhovka and also Nova Kakhovka are two cities where they built this dam. And so I was a part of Corridor UA at that time, and I remember that honestly, I underestimated the impact that this would have. So I arrived to work as I would any other day, and I see my manager, and he says to me, Adam, so because of this, we're going to go to Mykolaiv today and Kherson tomorrow. Are you with us? And I was living outside of Odessa. I only had that one pair of clothes at that time. I didn't have my phone charger, but I said, yes, of course. We were working that day on collecting a lot of water cartons, like 6, 7, 8 liter water cartons. And we collected 2 tons of them to bring to Mykolaiv and Kherson. So we drove to Mykolaiv. Next day to Kherson. There was one school there on a central street that they transformed into a spot to pick up donations, to pick up food, water, and so on.
So many people.
Yeah.
Like thousands of people who were helping
Hmm.
and thousands of people who needed help.
Yeah. I remember
It was
that
chaos, I guess.
it was definitely chaos. I remember that I was really inspired by the people who worked at the school, because they told us, yes, we are here at the very start of the war. We are here throughout the entire occupation, which I believe was from February to, or maybe March to November of 2022. If not November, then September. And that they stayed through occupation, they stayed through deoccupation, they're staying through the explosion of the dam, all to help out people. Very inspiring people. So we made several trips on those days to bring food, water, hygiene things. And every time that we passed by, at Chornobayevka, the city at the start of Kherson, there's this kind of a small river area, and we could see each time how the water level was rising. Meanwhile, my manager was going to a partner whose warehouse was completely flooded. Um, so lots of really, really awful things happening at that time. But all that time, I'm thinking, okay, thank God that I'm here, at least at this time, that I'm able to help out. These 3 days that I spent there in this one pair of clothes and asking my friends for their phone to charge, it was all worth it, I would say, to be able to provide some things for people to rely on. Remember that Kherson, its population was I believe its population was something like 300,000, and then it was reduced to maybe 80,000, something like that. It's been reduced by a third.
Yeah. And you were there in the epicenter of all the actions happening.
Mhm.
Thank you. Дякую, as we say in Ukraine, for what you are doing. Okay, maybe let's talk about anything else, any case which you can mention, which comes to your head.
Mhm.
Maybe the most recent one I didn't hear in diary, or maybe not. Depends what you want to talk about, because you have thousands of stories.
Mhm. So one that I haven't told you about is when I went to Kharkiv, and my as a part of my work, I was mostly going to bigger cities, oblast capitals. But in this trip, under my position, I was mostly going to oblast capitals to go to different networking events, to meet different organizations, and to figure out how we can coordinate.
That is negotiations part of
Yeah.
your job. That is,
Yeah.
you like it?
One project that I'm very proud about is when I met a organization in Kherson that was rebuilding or building temporary housing for people who lost their houses and lost their homes in Mykolaiv Oblast. And there is one organization, a partner organization from Corridor UA, that collects used but high quality windows that can be used for this rebuilding. And so I don't know how many windows have already been delivered, because this partnership continued for already more than a year after I helped to establish it. That's something I'm very proud of. But I want to tell you about a story when I went to Kharkiv, where there was a partner organization called Piatechata BAM. Piatechata is the name of the suburb in Kharkiv at the very north of the city.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah. Bum is just like bum. It's
Bum.
just a sound. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was really impressed by these people who are also delivering humanitarian aid throughout, primarily through Kharkiv Oblast, but also Donetsk Oblast, going to very hot areas like Siversky Rayon, which is kind of almost surrounded by occupied areas. And we went there. We went on a trip to went to deliver food, water, and also pet food to a city about 5 kilometers from the border with the official border of Russia. So I could see Russian fields on the other side, 5 kilometers away. There it was somewhat loud, not as loud as Kherson, where there is active fighting, but still, or very active fighting, but there was still fighting there. And I was really impressed by the warmth of these people, so close to the border, who receive very little guests. They gave me a book from their library to keep, and I have a signature from their
in Ukrainian,
place.
something
Yeah,
in
in
Ukrainian.
Ukrainian.
Nice.
And I quite worry for these people, because at one point I saw recently that the area where they are, that the Russians claim that they have reoccupied it. Currently, according to Ukrainian intelligence, it's not occupied, but it's very, very close to sharp fighting. And when talking with these people, talking with this organization, they're very modest and very, living day by day. But they were telling me the stories about how everything happened at the start of the invasion, how that they were spending so much time in their basements, that the organization was founded to get food from Kharkiv city and bring it to a kindergarten to cook for the people there. and they had to go through block posts every 50 meters in order to pass through. But they kept doing it because they just had this strong desire and drive that they had to help the people that were there, that otherwise they wouldn't have any food, in spite of how dangerous it was. That these people survived these very, very rough and experiences that put their lives at risk, and that they were modestly living their normal lives, trying to help as much as they could. They weren't bragging about it. They weren't mentioning too much about it. It was just something that they would mention if you asked the right questions.
Mhm. I'm listening to your stories and thinking that, first of all, I think that without volunteers and without people at front line, I don't know whether we would still keep fighting, you know? I mean, like, all together. And I'm not putting priorities, who is the most important one, who is least important one. Defense is important. Humanitarian aid is important. And I'm just thinking out loud that me as a volunteer, but different background, no front line, just fundraising money. But I can say that it is, you feel it's very hard, and you feel that you don't know, and I'm citing your diary right now, you never know when is enough and what is enough. And I remember I listened to your diary when you said that I'm doing, and sometimes I'm thinking, I want more, like I'm fundraising money, and still it's less than I would like to do. And thanks to people who are at frontline, thanks to people who are volunteering, thanks to people who are developing businesses, Ukraine still exists as a country, and Ukraine still develops. And you are one of the people, and generally my podcast is about people who are building Ukraine during wartime. So my question is, if a foreigner, if a person not from Ukraine watches this podcast right now in any part of the world, how he or she can help, and should they help? Maybe they should not, because I'm originally from here and I'm biased. I think that everyone should help. We are biased because we are from here originally. We were born here and it's different. But when you, as a person from different background, come here and you see and experience what you experience during these 2 years, what would you tell to our person who watches us, to our audience?
So first, to start with why, I think that everybody understands that people who need help, that we should help them out. But there are other people who think, why should we help out? Why should we continue to help when we've provided so much? Why should we do this? Or why Ukraine, for example? And there are many ways that I can respond to that. But if we look firstly at our own biased opinions, there are many even economic reasons to help out Ukraine. Ukraine has had a huge, Ukraine has a huge human resource talent and potential. Big names include PayPal, WhatsApp, Grammarly. These are all co-founded by Ukrainians, especially Grammarly, and that these organizations are global. They hire people and build businesses abroad, so these are always they will help to provide jobs and to improve the economy. Secondly, Ukraine is very globally connected, and being the breadbasket of Europe, they've exported quite a lot of grain to different areas of the world. And we can even see that, for example, in 2011, there was the Arab Spring, where there was a series of different revolutions across Arabic-speaking countries. And this happened to me during a season that produced very low crops in Ukraine. So by limiting Ukraine's ability to export crops to the world, Russia is creating more conflicts across the world and exacerbating the problem. However, furthermore, why should we continue to help Ukraine? It's because there is really no other option. Russia continues to conquer more land. They keep fighting and fighting. I've read recently that they stationed some troops across the border with Finland, and that this is an inherent threat to the security of Europe. And for people who are, for example, abroad in North America, if Russia were to attack the Baltic states, NATO, or Finland, then the US is obliged to send their own troops in order to protect these nations. So by supporting Ukraine, by making sure Ukraine is strong enough, that they are not just helping Ukrainians themselves, which by itself is already enough of a reason for me, that they are promoting other areas of the world, promoting economy, promoting world security, and promoting also their own security.
It was quite an extensive answer. Thank you so much. And the way you see it is less biased than mine. Thank you. I hope that people who watch us will definitely find some questions. I will definitely find answers to some questions. They have a lot of questions. And the reason why I'm doing this podcast is to show people like you, originally not from Ukraine. I was thinking about it. First of all, I wanted to mix the audience, but then I realized people who are not from here, but who are doing something for Ukraine, whatever the person is doing. For me, it's a lot of questions. And I guess that for people abroad, it's a lot of questions about the motives, motivation, and the way you see Ukraine is definitely different than mine. So what do you like? What do you love? What do you admire? Hopefully you do, if you still stay here for 2 years, about Ukraine.
So if we're talking about Ukrainians, then the first answer I would give is hospitality. That the way Ukrainians treat guests when they have guests has changed my approach to how I like to accept guests. That I always try and bring a gift, as that's actually also expected, but the way that they accept you as a part of their family, the way that they the food that they provide. I remember my friend's father-in-law, when I was living with them, cooked for 6 hours to make homemade borscht, which
we
was
like to
incredible.
cook, we like to
Yeah.
eat, we like to have huge tables with
Yeah.
lots of food, and you
Right.
mentioned it in your diary as well.
Yes.
Food is amazing, food is
Yeah.
amazing, food is amazing.
And connected with that, we also have that, I would say Ukrainians are very intense with their emotions. When they like you, they will show it with huge open arms. They will express with huge compliments how much they appreciate that you're here. When I've told people that I learned Ukrainian and that I'm here to help out, people have shed tears in their eyes from just the fact that I speak the language. Even
I did the same.
And at the other end of, on the other side of the coin, if somebody doesn't like what you're doing or saying, then they will also tell it to you very directly. And for me, this is something very refreshing that I think I still try to get used to. I'm definitely not like that as a personality, but I feel like this is something that I want to learn how to do more, to be more assertive in this way. But yeah, I think that Ukrainians, especially now, one other thing is that Ukrainians, especially the current generation, try to keep people accountable. I'll give you an example, and that recently in Kyiv there was an announcement that the botanical garden was going to be changed into a commercial center, and there were a bunch of protests, people signing documents to make sure that didn't happen. And I remember I saw somebody made their own cardboard sign and stuck that to a random pole on the street that said something like, "Who are we as citizens of Kyiv to allow them to take down the botanical garden?" I feel like there are a lot of people who perceive that, oh, there may be a lot of corruption, oh, there are problems with our civil servants. But as a result, they try to take people more accountable. They may perceive that less people care about their city than they really do. And as a result, they push people, let's do something, let's make it happen. And this proactiveness, I guess we can say, is something that's very inspiring for me.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So you learned something from us.
Absolutely.
That's
And try to learn more. Just recently, something that we'll talk about, I think, a bit later, is that I was at a Taloka, which is a
Let's
rebuilding
talk about
camp.
it now.
So I try to go once a month to rebuilding camps that are called Talokas in Ukrainian, where we do different things, but most often we go to a apartment that was destroyed around Bucha region, so northwest of Kyiv, that was formerly occupied or on the border of the occupied zone. And we go there and we demolish the ruins of a house that's already been destroyed so that the people living there can create a new housing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to say, like, this last time we were at a small location where there was this small black cat, and we're talking with the owners. They say, yeah, his name is Venom, that he just found himself here after the war started, and we've kept him here ever since. And he doesn't look too healthy, to be honest. He's very friendly, but he looks like there's something on his head or something. But very friendly. And we also noticed that he starts to limp, that he can't use his one of his back legs. And I was thinking to myself, man, if I had the resources, I would love to take this cat to a veteran, check him up, and maybe help him out, maybe take him home with me. But I'm just thinking that I don't have the resources for it. But then I overhear one of the people at the camp, she's talking with the coordinator saying, how can we take this cat to a vet? This cat needs attention. Let's organize something. And now we have a group that we're working on to see who has a car to take the cat to the vet, who can help out, who can post something about providing funding for that. So this very grassroots creation that I was just thinking I would like to do it, but these people said, I don't know the resources. I think they said, like, no, we want to help out, even if we can't really, even if we have to figure out a way to do it. And that is something that inspires me greatly, and something that I want to work harder to become more like.
And you're doing it. Even today, you sent me, and in Telegram, we were talking to each other, and you sent me the video with the cat, the one.
Oh yeah, another one.
And then I'm like, oh, what a nice cat. And then you say that this cat is from Frontline as well.
Yeah, this is my friend Lila. Lila Trochemets, who is a founder of the organization called Visiting the Wounded Soldiers, that she gathers people who want to go to hospitals to see soldiers who are going through hospice treatment, to give them thanks, to express their gratitude to them. Their symbol is a pineapple, because usually people bring chocolate or flowers, but a pineapple is a really random thing to bring, so it brings smiles to their faces. So they say, here's a pineapple for you. So she's abroad right now, and she asked if I could take care of her cats this week, come every day to feed them. And I said, yeah, of course. They're adopted from Donetsk Oblast. So,
yeah, people in Ukraine, as you mentioned about the animals, when in Kakhovka dam, which was destroyed, and everywhere else, our Instagram and our social profiles were full of people helping and saving animals. And there was even a saying like, people in Ukraine, and there was, it was like the contrast, like I will not compare us with neighbors now, but for us, there is a saying of Exupery: you are responsible for those whom you have taken, let's call it like this, whom you've taken care of.
Okay.
Or whom you tamed, whatever. So the thing is, we do take care not only of ourselves and our friends, but we think about our animals, dogs and cats. And it shows a lot. When you have 15 minutes to pack, but you have your cat or dog, you will definitely take them. You cannot leave them, right? Like for us, it's inevitable. And it's usually you just can, when you scroll on Instagram, you can see these cats and dogs and everywhere, and people do take care of them. And for me, it seems it's logical, and it tells a lot about us as a nation, and about taking care of somebody.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there have been cases where that wasn't the case, but I can tell you another project.
Okay.
Um,
You have a lot of them.
yeah, I try to help out in as many various ways that I can, and I feel like I have a very strong idea of the humanitarian volunteering scene. One organization with whom I go to the Tolokas called Brave to Rebuild, and Ukrainian Сміливі відновлювати. They partnered with a organization, I believe, called Pokrovsk Animals, where they have rescued dogs and cats from Donetsk Oblast who were abandoned walking the streets, as I understand, and they saved them and brought them to Kiev Oblast, and Brave to Rebuild, we together created a lot, over 30. I wish I had the correct number right now, but over 30 dog kennels for them to live in. So this is a lot of woodwork, creating the doors and the base and the roofs, and people who want to adopt a dog from Donetsk Oblast can come and adopt them. And a lot of this was all very hands-on, figuring things out. I was talking with one of the coordinators, Timur, about what he recommends, and he had a very good idea of how to create everything. I asked him where he learned, and he said, "Oh, I have no experience. Before this, I just learned everything while working on these dog shelters." And you can really gain quite a lot from volunteering, from develop a new skill, help out in a new way. At the end of the day, when you see the progress that you've made, it helps out quite it just, you feel great about it.
And being innovative.
Yeah.
Can you say, do you agree that, yeah, I guess you agree. I'm just right now, making an assumption while listening to you that we Ukrainians and people like you who help us and support us, being volunteers and are resilient, are innovative. And while listening to you, and I know that you haven't enumerated even half of your projects, and we have not that much time, but whom do you see yourself soon? I'm a recruiter by my background, so I do tons of job interviews, so I will sound a bit like a job interviewer right now. Whom do you see yourself? How do you see your projects, your future evolving? What would you like to do? And are you sure, or are you considering that you will still stay in Ukraine or not, if you have some assumptions?
So I decided when I first moved to Ukraine that I want to be here for at least 5 years, until I'm 30. So I'm 27 now. Halfway there.
3 more years.
And from there, decide what I want to do next. But in the humanitarian sector, there are quite a lot of people who travel from place to place, going from crisis to crisis. But at this point in my life, I'm not sure if that's for me, because I found a place that I feel very passionate about. I feel like I am a part of the community here. I feel like I'm a part of society in Ukraine, more so than any other place that I've lived. This is due to the hospitality of the people.
And you've lived in at least 3 or 4 foreign countries.
I've lived in Austria, Germany, 1 year in England, 1 year in Poland, a summer in Latvia, and Ukraine.
So yeah, altogether 6 countries.
More or less, yeah.
Pleased to hear that.
So for me right now, my plan for the next year is that I will be going back south to coordinate some rebuilding projects, including the rebuilding of a school in Mykolaiv. That's the current plan. Helping out volunteers to figure out everything, guiding them in the process in Ukraine. I really enjoyed this, showing people Ukraine and getting them to understand the great things, but also understand what went wrong through the war, to give them the full picture of the country. So that's where I see myself for the next year. But afterwards, I feel like I need to dream a new dream, because what I mean by this is that there are a lot of aspects of the humanitarian sector that I did not expect. One of this being dependence on financing. Another of these being that mostly foreigners are only given very high positions after many, many years of experience. And for me, I think that the standard path for a humanitarian at this point would be to find a new crisis to go to help out and build my experience there. But I want to stay in Ukraine, and I want to. Feel like there's much more that I can contribute to society while I'm here. So maybe go into the private sector and find some event management or project management here in Kyiv. I've thought, and I've met some very inspiring psychologists lately, around five. And I'm thinking maybe I can go into psychology and learn how to do psychological projects, which are very relevant here.
Yeah.
So I have it to see.
By the way, so first of all, there is still a probability that you still stay in Ukraine.
I want this to be the case. Yes.
I'm so pleased
I
to
plan
hear
this
it.
to be the
I'm so
case.
pleased to hear it. Secondly, I agree that in Ukraine we definitely need leaders of humanitarian aid. The more the better. We definitely need leaders of humanitarian aid with different background from different countries. And we definitely need more psychologists for people at frontline, for their dear ones, and for people doing volunteering and doing humanitarian aid. So all of this is carte blanche, like you can definitely do all of it here. And I'm really pleased to hear that you're going to do it. Okay, so we've talked about the future. And yeah, you sent to me the video during this weekend. I just listened to your diaries. I sent to you the audio with tears because it was very emotional and very deep. I hope it will be published. Are you going to publish your diaries, by the way?
I've published it, but I haven't shared it.
Yeah,
I kind of just uploaded it maybe for myself mostly. But I think I'll sometime share it, especially after this,
Yeah. It needs to be shared. And so the diary is very deep and emotional with lots of different stories and your background. And also you sent to me, while I sent to you that diary is great, you sent to me the video of you doing something in the garden, or I don't know, in some kind of field, and people singing Ukrainian songs, Nese Haля vodu, Nese Adam vodu. Yeah, they made it with Adam, and you were singing another song. And yeah, what were you doing back there?
So this is at one of our talokas. This is where we went to Moschun. And for that family specifically, the daughter of the family, or the granddaughter, who was studying abroad in England, she gave a gift to her family as this little separate house for her grandmother. And yeah, they built the house. It's a story with mixed emotions because the grandmother passed away on February 22nd of 2022. So she passed away before the start of the invasion. So thankfully she didn't get to see it. And the house where she was living in was destroyed in the first week of March. So thankfully she wasn't there for that, at least. So it's a very, very difficult story to process, in my opinion. So we came there and we were working on taking down the rocks and the bricks to clean the place up so that they can rebuild if they wish. Yeah, we invited some journalists there to see what the organization does. There is one person from the Philippines, for example, as an international delegation who want to show the world Ukraine. And that's something that I'm very happy about. I'm really happy when journalists come to show the world Ukraine. I'm really inspired when foreigners come here and they say, like, yes, this is my first time in Ukraine, 3 years after the invasion. I just found time to come here and to see how they are impressed by Ukraine for the first time, just as I was many years ago.
Are there a lot of foreigners like this? Do you know a lot of them?
Yes. Not too many foreigners who come to volunteer. end up staying in Ukraine altogether. But there are many, many people who come for a week to help out, to volunteer, especially to Kyiv and also to Lviv and Kharkiv. But as I've mentioned, the volunteering scene in Kyiv is especially developed.
Okay. But also there is a possibility to do something online, right? For organizations.
Absolutely. I mean, it always depends from organization to organization. If people have contacts, then they can help, for example, with marketing or accounting. But I think that for
Or
people...
fundraising, maybe.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to mention. That this is always a possibility for... Yes, not just to provide funding for the armed forces or for these humanitarian organizations, but to even provide... but to provide contacts. For example, if somebody says, hey, I know this really great conference in, let's say, Berlin, where there are a lot of people meeting to help out in the world, lots of donor organizations, maybe this is something for this organization, to invite Ukrainian organizations or get in touch to get them involved, or connecting, if a person is a businessman, to connect their company with a company in Ukraine to... for example, to get involved with corporate responsibility, that, hey, we'll provide a certain amount of their funds from this will go to helping Ukrainian children who have limited mobility, for example. So there's lots of different things that can be done, and it doesn't just have to be donating. It can be organizing things, organizing even raffles, providing something like there are a lot of these... artillery shells that Ukrainians paint with a nice design, and this is something that can also be donated, so that people can also feel that they are gaining something from that. I think that's a big thing, that just charity, helping other people out, is one thing, and you can get quite far with it. But I think also showing people, hey, this is something I personally gain out of it. This is something that personally helps me. Is another aspect to get people who otherwise wouldn't help to help out.
Adam just has mentioned so many things you can do if you want, if you feel like doing, from any part of the world. It's fundraising, it's talking about Ukraine, it's raising awareness, it's sharing this podcast with someone you know. It is meeting new people, connecting new people,
Learning Ukrainian.
Sorry?
Learning Ukrainian.
Learning Ukrainian. We are going to talk about it right now as well. So if you watch it, if you feel like doing something about it, if you haven't found anyone yet who can be a connector, please text us. Please just write in comments. Now or later, I guess it will be even in a year from now. If you write something, I will do my best to review it, because when the war is over, we will have to rebuild Ukraine. So it's a long process which takes years. You agree with me? So that's why if you watch it, if you see it, if you feel like doing more, if you feel like talking about it, if you know someone, if you want to connect someone, let us know. We'll be happy, right? And to help, to share. And it is definitely worth doing.
I'm always open to contacts. Anybody who wants to help out but doesn't know how to, feel free to get in touch, and I'll be glad to tell you how.
Sounds great. Thank you, Adam. And I hope, for me, if there is someone who texts us, if there is at least one person who watches it from any part of the world, originally or not originally from Ukraine, doesn't matter, and wants to help out, wants to talk, wants to share, know someone, for me, it's already a victory. So it's already something which matters. And language. A language club. When we were talking about the podcast, you wanted it to be in Ukrainian. I was so sorry to say that we can't do it in Ukrainian, unfortunately, because we are doing it for people from abroad. people from originally not from Ukraine to understand what we are talking about. And I guess that a lot of you will listen to our podcast in your headphones while doing something at home or while driving, which is okay. And we do appreciate it. But I know how much you wanted to talk Ukrainian. And we'll do it right now. What do you want to talk about?
So let's talk about how I learned Ukrainian.
Yes.
That basically, as I mentioned, I was learning Russian for 8 years. So this was quite a long-term but straightforward process for me. When the invasion started, I moved to Poland and started to learn Polish. Now, Ukrainian is the closest language to Ukrainian is Belarusian, and then afterwards is Polish.
Yes.
And I think that the closest language to Russian is Ukrainian, even though Ukrainian is close to Polish. Basically, there are a lot of words that are connected in between these two of them.
Cognate languages, right?
Right.
So that's why people sometimes might mix up the words because these are cognate languages and which are hard to learn because the cognate languages are the most hard to learn. You can mix up the words.
Yeah. So when I first came to Ukraine, I felt like I had more or less the level of a Ukrainian who spoke Russian their whole life, or well, not the same level, but you understand what I mean.
We don't speak Russian with Adam anymore.
Nope. I'm very principled about that. Who had this level, but understood Ukrainian from media, from books, and so on, because I was learning Polish when I was in Poland, but just had a year of practice. So basically, the question was, how can I start speaking in Ukrainian? Which words do I choose in which places? And the process was that when I joined Lemberg Volunteers, I started to work in Surjik, which is the language, the mixture between Ukrainian and Russian, like Spanglish between English and Spanish.
Yeah, Sisi.
Yes, claro que sí. So I'm very grateful to my colleagues who were correcting me. I like to mention about how I asked one colleague if they could rozpечатати something for me, to print something out in a Russian, like the Russian word in the Ukrainian way.
Yeah.
And they told me I can't rozpечатати it for you, but I can роздрукувати.
Oh, so Adam was correcting people?
No, I was corrected myself.
You're correct. But still, I guess you can correct a lot of people right now.
I mean, I try not to correct, but I've been told sometimes, like, oh man, I feel like so ashamed that Adam speaks Ukrainian better than I do. But I try to, provide support for that. I really think that it's important that people feel, I guess this is the direction that we need to go in, and that if Adam can do it, so can I.
I see it as a slogan. If Adam can do it, so can I.
So after 2 weeks, I was more or less speaking clean Ukrainian, still with some Russian words, but ultimately it just comes down to making yourself speak with everybody, no matter what, to pushing yourself into this and accepting the discomfort. I think a lot of it is a psychological question, that how comfortable a person is with not sounding correct at first, how comfortable a person is with changing the language as well, that there's lots that comes down to it. But I think, for example, and I'm going to admit right now some big mistakes before this point in my life. I remember when Crimea was taken by Russia, I was more or less 15 or 16. And when I saw that... 2014. And I remember thinking to myself, well, if they all speak Russian, why not be a part of Russia? Okay, well...
You were thinking this?
I was thinking that.
I guess a lot of people were thinking this.
And what I'm mostly ashamed of is that when I came to Ukraine in 2021, already an adult, I think I was 24, I remember I wrote in my journal, the people here are so cool. I really like the people from Odesa. Russians are so nice. I called Ukrainians from Odesa Russians because I did not make this difference within the language.
Because they spoke Russian?
Yeah, or at least I was speaking Russian with them and they spoke Russian back. And if we compare this to my country, where if you are taking a survey on and you have to say what race you are, there's the choice to choose Hispanic.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of people in the West tend to categorize people and their ethnicity by the language they speak. Definitely in the US, there are many people who
Makes
categorize
sense.
Mexicans to Colombians to Peruvians to Argentinians all under one Spanish speaking group.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are many people who look at the Arabic speaking countries and also think, they're all Arabs, they're all the same people. And in that way, I also looked at all the Russian speaking or the places where Russian was spoken and thought to myself, yeah, they're all one group, which is far from the case. This ignores the complete history about how the Ukrainian language was limited and repressed for hundreds and hundreds of years, and how the Ukrainians still managed to survive and be used also as this language as resistance. I see now how the politicians in my country are justifying giving up the occupied territories because of the population there that speaks Russian. And so because of that, I see that there is the duty to switch because of how many people perceive that
Mm-hmm.
if
Mix
they're
up.
Russian speakers, then they should be a part of one place. I think most people, when they're living at their home city, they aren't consciously thinking about what other people will think of them, which is a good idea to have. And I think that I, as a person who's lived abroad for 10 years, that I'm very used to being aware that if I mess up in some way, people may think that way about everything that I represent.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe about Americans or about humanitarian workers, even cases people could make generalizations about men, for example. So I think we need to be careful about how we represent ourselves. And the second reason is that there are many people, many soldiers who have come back from the front who feel when they hear Russian in the street that they remember their trauma. Maybe they experienced torture in Russian prisons.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they experienced very hard experiences on the front that were connected with the Russian language, and their trauma is reactivated. So especially for these people who have given up so much of their lives to help out Ukraine and Europe and the world order as a whole, especially for them, learning Ukrainian is a gift and provides safety.
You brought up so many things here. Thank you. You brought up language question. You brought up identity question. You brought up safety question. So many things which are, which somebody can say it's just a language, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that you realize it, even though it's not your native language and even though it's not your original native land, and the way you see it, it represents everything I'm thinking about, but from different perspective as a foreigner.
Mm-hmm.
It still, I do agree with it. I had a case similar to yours, as you said, about like before full-scale war, Ukraine was not known that much in Europe and in the world. And abroad, when I was telling at the conferences, representing Ukraine sometimes at different conferences and meetups, I was saying, hello, my name is Julia, I'm from Ukraine, and somebody could tell me something in Russian,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I was like, no, it's not my language. It's Russian. And they say, oh, Russia, Ukraine, the same. And it was 2015, 16, 17, 18, 20. I had a case when I was doing students exchange in the Netherlands. And the family I stayed in, the father, my Dutch father, when I came there and I said, hello, my name is Julia, I'm from Ukraine. And he went somewhere. He disappeared. And I lived there for a week or two. And when I was leaving, he told me, Julia, I need to tell you something. I'm like, what? I didn't know where Ukraine is. And I somehow was thinking it's part of Russia because historically, you know, Soviet Union and blah, 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 blah. But I'm happy that I double checked in the map and I didn't ask you. And I'm like, thank you so much.
I remember that I was talking with some family. These family members have Polish heritage. And I'm mentioning about how Polish is a Slavic language, that the Polish are considered a Slavic people. They said, really? I'm Slavic? I had no idea. And the fact that they I asked them, like, what did you think the language, what family was it a part of? And they said, I don't know, I just never thought about it. I think that because there is a much longer history about Polish resisting the Russians and the Germans and everything, that especially Americans connected more or don't connect Poland to Russia and so on. Some may ask, oh, do you use Cyrillic? Do you use a different alphabet?
Oh,
But
different, complicated alphabet.
yeah.
Usually people like this, oh, these letters
Mhm.
are like mixed up. Or like,
Right.
oh, don't show it to me.
Right. So I think by highlighting the Ukrainian language and Ukrainian solidarity and how unique the Ukrainian culture is, by showing the world things like Ukrainian literature, which was repressed for centuries, Ukrainian language music, and so on, the more and more people will see it and are starting to see it as its own unique and special thing.
Thank you. That's what I want to show to the world. And unbelievable how much you understand Ukrainian people. Do you have some Ukrainian origin? Maybe somewhere, grandparents, anything? No?
I do not, but Ukrainian future, I hope.
Feels like you do have. I don't know. Like to me, feels like you maybe a double check with your parents.
We have checked. I would say, my first year when living abroad, I was very idealistic. I was a child. I was 17. I didn't understand the world very well. And some small things happened that, like, well, there was a girl that I liked who didn't like me back, and it
That's
hurt
how
me
the
very hard
majority
at
of
17.
stories start.
Yeah. And I was quite a bit sad afterwards. I was a bit depressed from that. And one of my friends, who is half American and half Bulgarian, told me, Adam, for me also moving abroad was very difficult, but my friends really helped me to adapt to the new culture and a new society. Let's meet every week for a coffee and talk about what I've learned. And so me talking with him and also quite a lot of other friends, especially my Ukrainian friends, really molded me into the person that I am today. So I think especially that first year was something that made me who I am and who made me somehow similar, or at least very happy and easily able to adapt to Ukrainian society.
Unbelievable. So thank you. Thanks to all the friends of Adam who built him the way he is. Thanks to your parents for such a background, because helping others, it's one of my mottos. And I know that majority of people don't understand it. Majority of people don't get it. They're like, why are you doing it? Are you paid for it? Do you get money for it? Just for fun? You don't have, build your career, blah, blah, blah. You should focus on your goals. But at the same time, if it's my goal, if it's your goal, if helping others and building a better future is part of maybe if we can live in this future right now, right? So, and I agree that surrounding an environment really makes you the way you are. And for me right now, talking to you, I discover so many new things, to be honest. I thought that I listened to your diary and I know everything. No, I don't. And so many more new things to discover. So you want to talk about in Ukrainian a bit?
Так, можна.
No, добре. We'll give some subtitles here. I know just some people who listen to us right now and who know Ukrainian will need to hear the way Adam speaks Ukrainian. So it will be a short one, a short message, but something meaningful, and you'll read it in subtitles if you don't understand it.
Я хотів обрати досить складну тему.
Ну, давай.
Так, я хотів розповісти про те, що, як ми вже сказали, що ми поволонтерили у Польщі. І це було дійсно дуже-дуже інтенсивний час для мене і, напевно, для тебе також.
Було таке.
Я пам'ятаю один момент, де, наприклад, ми з моїм колегою, що ми пішли на платформу з деякими валізками однієї сім'ї, яка якраз виїхала. І коли ми там на платформі, поїзд приїжджає, і я чую крик. Я йду до платформи і бачу, що одна бабуля, що вона випала на колію між платформами. І, звісно, був там такий хаос. Точно ті, хто працювали в потязі, вони бачать, чи є хтось там, чи можна взагалі безпечно їхати. Але в той момент я не знав, чи буде таке. Я закрикнув, тоді це було російською, «Остановіть поїзд». Я стрибнув на колію, і ми, і ще два хлопці підняли її. Я їй сказав, все буде добре, не хвилюйтеся, заспокойтеся, все буде окей, і ви безпечно поїдете на місто, куди їдете. Я бачу, що ще, мабуть, внучка, що вона там плакала, я окремо пішов до неї, щоб втішити її. І я пам'ятаю, ми потім за колегою пішли за повітрю, і відразу починається ще друга такий випадок. Я безмежно вдячний і радий, що в мене був цей час, де я міг допомогти. А я ще признаюся, що мені було важко прийняти, що я лише волонтерив на вокзалі 1 тиждень. І потім я робив деякі інші речі в Польщі, коли я там жив, але було важко прийняти, що я більше там не робив.
Хотів ще повернутися, так?
Так. Але в цьому теж є якийсь егоїзм, да? Що я не робив достатньо, треба, якби я там хоча б місяць попрацював, то було б теж краще. Я багато цього обробляв. Я думаю, що в таких моментах, де є високий рівень адреналіну, що можна бажати повернутися до цього, що капець, я міг би робити більше, я повинен був робити більше. І коли, наприклад, ми сидимо за комп'ютером і займемося чимось, типу, мабуть, звітом, або дивимося на таблиці для обліку організації, то це відчувається не так сильно, але це все-таки потрібно. Про почуття, що ми робимо достатньо, я думаю, що треба так налаштуватися, що це достатньо, що я щось роблю. Це достатньо, що я на цьому шляху. І так постійно повторювати собі, що я достатньо з тим, що я зараз роблю, не дивлячись на результат, що я тут потрібен. І це,
Клас.
Це якесь, типу, це щось ментально.
Це про процес, це про шлях.
Так. Це нелегко і це не завжди виходить, але це щось, що я стараюся робити, і коли виходить, то це мені дуже допомагає.
Клас. So here, the person, Adam, was speaking amazing Ukrainian. And we were talking about doing enough and not doing enough, and about the way.
Yeah.
And it is bravo from my side. Amazing Ukrainian language. I still can't believe you don't have origin. We have talked about so many things. And I was also thinking always about this fact, what is enough, what is not enough, when is enough. And I had cases when my friends were telling me, while volunteering and fundraising, they were telling me, Julia, stop. It's too much. You are on this adrenaline all the time. And the first thing I was doing was checking the fundraising, banka, a fundraising account. And sometimes I was even getting obsessed with it. And as you mentioned in Ukrainian, it's the way, the process, as samurais say that mind the process. Think about the process,
Yes.
not about the result. You never know what the result is. But the process, which we are experiencing already the 4th year of full-scale war, and this process still lasts, and it will last. And we have to be strong. And if we don't enjoy the process if we don't do tolokas, as you mentioned, if we don't bring fun, if we don't talk to each others, if we don't have a great and surrounding network, it really build, as you mentioned before, it builds you as a personality.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have it, we will not survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have too much pressure, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm really pleased and happy with our conversation. How do you feel about it?
I feel great. I'm excited to see the end result.
And the process is important.
Yes,
Remember,
yes.
everybody is asking me, Julia, when is the podcast coming? Julia, when is the podcast? I'm like, I'm enjoying the process.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm angry. Sometimes I'm not ready to hear what people tell me, because some people tell me you have to work on this and that and that and that. And what we have told each other today, and we were sending videos, we said it might be imperfect, but it will be the way we see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope that it was the way you imagined it.
Yes. So I have one. You mentioned you like surprises, so I have.
Oh my God, I don't know.
One small surprise. I mentioned about how it's very important for me to, when I'm invited as a guest, to bring a gift. So my little thing is to bring a postcard from the city that I'm from and write a nice message. I think a lot of people think, it's so cool. It's from Miami. Rock on.
Yeah, everyone is like Miami.
And one other thing beyond bringing a gift that I learned is that I love how Ukrainians, well, especially when it's a birthday, that Ukrainians write a long paragraph about how much they appreciate you, wishing you the best, thanking you for being like this, and that people specifically look back to their own messages to make sure they're not repeating it. This is something that really made an impact on me. So here is also a note that I've written for you that I'd say was very much influenced by how people have written letters for me. In Ukrainian, of course.
Thank you so much. Do you want me to read it out?
Sure.
Okay. But it's in Ukrainian.
Mm-hmm.
So I will translate it.
Mm-hmm.
Julia, thank you for invitation. Please be as much lively, charismatic, and curious as you are in people. And you are the one who shines and inspires. Oh my God, thank you so much. I want to hug you.
I'm not sure how easy it would be. Yes, for sure, it'll come afterwards.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll be finishing this podcast. I wish we could talk more, and we might talk more later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really pleased to have you as a guest. I told you, and I do believe that the world needs to know about you, because the way you see the world and the way you perceive the world and the way you want to make the world, Ukraine and the world better, is unbelievable. And I believe if we have such people like you, the world will be a better place. And I am really happy that you joined me today. And I wish you all the best in your future career. I wish you as many nice people as possible, learning new languages, and see you in other projects, podcasts, vlogs, whatever.
Thank you very, very much for the extremely warm words, Julia. You also very, very, you know very well how to construct a beautiful compliment. So yes, I'm looking forward to. Yes, I'm also looking forward to seeing who will be coming up next on your podcast, and looking forward to listening to that soon. I'm sure it'll be full of plenty of surprises and exciting people.
Thank you. Thank you so much.